3, 2, 1, and we are at episode 11 of the All In Loyalty Podcast. Welcome, one and all things loyalty, all in one place. We are always gathering back here every 2 weeks to talk about some of the latest and greatest developments happening in the loyalty space. The basic concept is always the same. If you come and listen to our podcast, if you hear what Gabriele and Gianluca have to say, and occasionally myself, you will be up to speed and understand everything that is going on in the loyalty space, and you understand the most important things, and you can ignore all other podcasts, articles, pieces of information that go. All you need is this, basically, at the end of the day. I think it goes to show how confident we are. I think it's very clear. And yeah, it's been another very, very interesting 2-week period. Honestly, it was really interesting when it came to the article selection or the news selection this time, because a lot of the most recent ones just came out in the last 48 hours. So the first two that we're going to talk about came out literally yesterday. So that's also kind of cool. But yeah, we're going to dive into some of these articles very soon. They're very good because I think they're extremely forward thinking. It has a lot to do with technology. It has a lot to do with the place that loyalty and rewards have in the future. We do talk about that a lot, but a lot of it is also looking back most of the time. But this one is very, very much looking forward. So in the meantime, first of all, Gabriele, head honcho, how are you doing today? Everything good?
Yes, I'm doing very good. Was not the best idea to eat a cookie before I feel it in my mouth, but I'm doing very good. Sun is shining in Zurich. Everything is fine, and looking forward to this episode.
The sun is shining here too. I actually had to lower the shutters and become like the cave dweller so that I can get decent lighting for my angles and everything. But hey, it is what it is. Gianluca, over to you. How's the situation on your end?
Good. Yeah, seems like everything has simmered down a little bit here in the Middle East, in Dubai specifically, and yeah, feeling good and happy to be on the podcast and excited to talk about the topics.
Very, very nice. Awesome. Guys, we should dive right into it because there's some very interesting stuff going on and very limited amount of time to get into it. But first, we're going to go into article number 1, which has honestly one of my favorite titles that we've had recently. I'm going to share it with everybody now. Loyalty has outgrown the loyalty program. This is an article that delineates 7 particular shifts, redefining loyalty programs as an intelligent, emotional, and adaptive living system. So a lot of the past conversations that we've had about loyalty and loyalty programs and loyalty points in general have been around how companies have been innovating, how they've been bringing out some of these new programs, how some of these ideas have been extremely new, but some of these trends that we've discussed have actually had these ongoing themes and these keywords that we know all too well, which tend to have to do with personalization, which has to do with emotional loyalty, with the impact that AI can have over it and everything. And it's a really interesting article because it talks about the directions that loyalty is heading, and a lot of it speaks to, I would say, authenticity, a lot of emotional pull, a lot of personalization, a lot of prediction as well, and a lot of very interesting topics that we've actually all covered together in previous episodes. So we're going to go through these points, 7 points total. We don't have to get into a long tirade for each and every one, but depending on how interesting they are, how good they are, we'll dive into it together. So let's just dive straight into the first one. This one was interesting too. Loyalty as a lifestyle OS. From loyalty programs to living loyalty systems. Brands are no longer competing only for attention. They're competing to be trusted, selected, and recommended by systems designed to act in the customer's best interest. So this one is sort of encapsulating what all the next points are going to be. The most transformative loyalty model won't look like a program at all. It will behave like an intelligent layer beneath the customer's day, seeing context, sensing needs, and shaping moments without demanding attention. The point is not more personalization. The point is protection and orchestration. Loyalty that reduces noise, lowers effort, and surfaces value only when it truly helps. We've talked about this topic before, of course. It has to do with any business, any product that's going around when you're talking about reducing friction, making it as simple as possible. Are there any things that you guys would want to add to this first point, or does it speak for itself, in your opinions? Open floor here if anyone wants to say anything.
I would say this article and like this specifically, I think speaks exactly to the point that loyalty programs or loyalty in general is not a campaign. It is not something that you just do on the side. It's not an afterthought for your customers, or that you do for your customers, but it's something that you build with the intention to bring actual value to your customers. And I think the final sentence or the final phrase where it says loyalty that reduces noise, lowers effort, and specifically surfaces value only when it truly helps, that I think says it all, because it really means value is when you need it, when it helps, and not just a marketing campaign that is pushed to everyone.
Very true. I mean, the quote always comes out, right? Loyalty is supposed to be a result, right? That's like, at the end of the day, that's one of the most important things. Gabriele, do you have something to add when it comes to this particular section?
I mean, I agree with Gianluca what he said, that definitely it's not a campaign, loyalty. It's really a strategic decision that you as a company do, that you say you want to invest in customer loyalty, and then it is connected to basically every department in your company. So it's not like a subset of the marketing team that works on a loyalty program, gives out some points, and then let's say make some redemption options available. It's part of your go-to-market strategy. It's part even of your product strategy, I would say, because at the end of the day, it adds additional value to whatever product you're providing. It has an impact on your profits, on your costs, disconnected with all your tech stack, with all your systems, etc. So it is really a strategic decision, and when it's not treated like that, you see that basically loyalty programs or loyalty systems really start failing, and they don't provide value to the customer, or let's say they provide minimal value to the customer and minimal value to the company. So I think loyalty is a lifestyle OS. Imagine they mean operating system. Makes a lot of sense, because it is really an operating system in the sense that it's integrated with every part of your company, and it's a very strategic decision and not just like a by the way decision.
And if it does like have that level, I mean, you say operating system, that means a system that really sort of underlines the entire like infrastructure of what the customer experience is like. That kind of then ties back into the question of like effort and allocation of time and resources that we had in the last episode, talking about how you can tell when one of these programs are half-assed and when one of them have actually talks about, you know, a particular team that they created and things like that. Like, I mean, I think Gabriele, you mentioned like you should dedicate at least 3 people to some of these programs. But of course, if the company's bigger, the teams have to be correspondingly bigger as well. And yeah, I think that kind of speaks to that, I feel like, in my personal opinion. Are we ready to move on to point number 2?
Yes.
All right. So, loyalty that grows with me, from static identity to living context. Where someone is, what they're doing, and what they're navigating right now can matter more than what they did months ago. So this is the transition again from sort of history to looking forward. Traditional loyalty relies heavily on history. The next generation responds to the moment. Identity becomes something that evolves through behavior and rhythm, not something captured once in a fixed profile. This is where loyalty can get genuinely powerful. It stops optimizing only for repeat purchase and starts helping customers progress into what they're becoming. A beauty retailer can recognize that someone is exploring a new look and remove the trial and error without making it feel like upsell. Want to try new looks trending in the style you've been exploring? Here's the starter kit and a 3-minute tutorial, etc., etc. I feel a slight tie-in again to one of the, I don't remember which of you mentioned the sort of predictive nature of some of the Walmart related stuff that was able to like predict someone was pregnant before they actually knew it themselves. But it kind of feels like that in this case. And myself personally, just from a consumer perspective, I think I've noticed this start to come around, especially on my feeds for like Amazon or maybe even Lieferando. I'm not sure, but like I'm kind of guessing. They're like there's no way they knew that I would like this. It feels like it's kind of becoming a trend. Is this something that you guys think is something that should then replace history, or like which one is more important? If we're talking about optimizing and seeing what someone is looking at currently and then basing, what we show them on that, should that have all the relevance, or should it be like more of a 50-50 balance, or what should it be? And then in general, let's look at some of the takes based on this. So from static identity to living context. Gabriele, maybe we can start with you. What are your thoughts here?
I mean, it makes absolutely sense. Like the dream scenario for every loyalty program owner, and also from a customer perspective, is the company knows exactly what I need when, and can also cater for that. Obviously, it is easier said than done because it needs a lot of data, it needs a lot of again, personalization. We talked a lot about it, but you can personalize when you have the data, when you have the right systems in place to actually give that personalized experience. So I think it's completely right. But on the other side, I see, and I think that a lot of companies are still struggling with it because it needs a lot of work to actually personalize in the right way. And sometimes you also don't even have all the data.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Sorry,
all good.
Well, so yeah, but again, much more difficult to execute than saying it.
Mm-hmm. Gianluca, have you got anything to throw into this one?
Yeah, one thing that I immediately thought about when I read this was tier-based systems and how they actually have that in a way baked in, the natural progression of where you are and where you're going. And I believe, at least in that sense, of course, it's still history-based. They're mostly history-based. Here we're talking about living context in the moment. But I have the feeling that at least gets a bit closer to that, in the sense that your system is, or your program is already trying to give you a path forward, showing you where you can go. And it maybe becomes a symbiotic relationship in that sense, that the program suggests in the direction you want to go, or that you can go. And at the same time, you are also moving in that direction because you see the benefits of what the tiers give you. So you might adjust your behaviors accordingly. But at the same time, it also gives the program a way of knowing where you're at right now, and also giving the benefits or modifying, not modifying, but giving the experience based on where you're at right now. So it's still a lagging indicator, not like this one that is more adaptive and in the moment, but it has that feeling towards it. At least that's one of the first things I thought about when I saw this.
Totally. And I also see tie-ins here to another previous conversation we had, which was about first-party data and how sort of also important of a topic that's been, now that like most things are sort of agentic, and a lot of these companies are struggling now to actually get good quality third-party data. Having one of these programs where you can collect some of these things from a first-person, perspective, and actually being able to then use that to actually fuel your own thing, and then knowing how well they work, I mean, it's an ever-improving thing as well. So it feels like that's also a very relevant topic when it comes to this particular point. How are you going to do anything without some of that all-important data, right? So, yeah.
I think the question here will also be in future, who actually does the personalization? Is it each company personalizes towards you, or will you have your personal AI assistant that actually gathers all the data that they find on your site, and then actually personalizes all your kind of user experiences to that. Because if you think about it, take an airline, if they have access to my email account, to my WhatsApp messages and so on, and they start seeing that I'm discussing various trips, for example, with friends for business, etc., they obviously can personalize much better. They can send me much better offers in the sense that, hey, by the way, I saw that you have to go, I don't know, to Dubai to visit your brother because he has birthday soon. By the way, we have a specific offer, or hey, you have enough miles. I just checked the dates and so on. I checked if there are flights. So it will be, I think, much more difficult. And also, as a user or as a customer, you don't want to give everyone your data. So I don't want to open up my mail account to, I don't know,
Right.
to or Miles and More, to Emirates or to Marriott or whoever I'm using for that trip. But I think it will be more me having an AI assistant on my side that actually has access to all the data, that understands perfectly my preferences, that can then also forecast what is going on in the next couple of weeks, next couple of months, etc. And based on that, actually gather all the data and personalize my experience. So I think that will also be a big difference. Like, the question is, who is actually personalizing your journey, the companies or the or your AI assistant?
Super relevant, and hold that thought, because that actually becomes a relevant point a little bit later, either in this article or in one of the other, like, second article that we're going to talk about. I can't remember exactly, but it's going to be one of the main topics of discussion. All right, let's move on to point number 3. Loyalty that knows how I feel. Most loyalty programs use the same tone, timing, and content for every moment. That should change. People make decisions differently when they're energized, stressed, relaxed, or overwhelmed. The next era of loyalty programming brings emotional context into the experience, making loyalty feel less like messaging and more like hospitality. After a long day, the system prioritizes comfort first, and then I'm guessing they talk about, the whole then vice versa, but they use the example here of, if the booking indicates a family trip, the experiences switches modes. A crew member greets the kids, has age-appropriate activity packs in hand, and times a check-in and small snack when it actually helps. Again, I think the clear priority here is convenience, I think, already for just the first 3 points. Friction-free. I think it's really interesting how I think we're going to get to this stage where you've both mentioned this before, having this AI assistant that can help you out with like every aspect of everything. Once all of this is interconnected, it feels like all of this is going to happen. The examples that are being brought up in these points are going to happen without necessarily even having to like fill out information or anything, right? If you book a hotel, the assistant immediately knows everything about you, who you're going with, whatever, and that then gets communicated with wherever you're staying, wherever the restaurants are that you go to, and it all feels like it's kind of like amalgamating together in a way, right? We talked also about the impact of what it'll eventually mean to have like a sort of digital universal identity that you can actually use to go around and stuff like that, and how that's going to end up tying into things like that. I'm thinking 50 years into the future, or however, maybe it comes sooner. I don't know. I know there's a couple of projects that are already working on this identity thing, but yeah, being able to use temporary factors like stress or tiredness or hype or whatever it could be to tailor into someone's loyalty experience. Is this something that you guys have witnessed or seen yet, or maybe is this like something that's still yet to happen? I feel like I personally haven't noticed this particular facet of it yet, but I would be really excited to see something like that in the future. But do either of you guys have any anecdotes to this? Maybe.
I have, but I can't remember. I one thing I was thinking about when they explain, or when they make the example of the crew member greeting the kids and giving age-appropriate activities and so on and so forth. One thing that for sure popped up to my mind when I read this as well was loyalty that knows how I feel. Sometimes it doesn't take crazy gestures or complex loyalty mechanisms to make a customer or a loyalty program member extremely happy, or even just feel considered, because we're talking about here how I feel considered and feel like you're being thought of, And the example of knowing how I feel and then given like the mode of I'm in, for example, as also the example is here, a slow evening, or you're tired, or you maybe at the hotel you arrive at a late hour, or you arrive at an early hour, whatever it may be, or you missed the breakfast, because the hotel's breakfast is at a certain time and you just flew in, you just arrived after that. If in those cases, even if just you're part of the loyalty program and they would offer you a small selection of the breakfast, when you arrive, to show you, or they don't have to have it ready, but they at least say, hey, our breakfast closed, but since you're a member of the loyalty program and you just arrived now after it closed, you may put together a selection of things from our breakfast, and we'll prepare it and send it to your room, or we'll send it to you in the lobby, wherever you are that you have to wait. It's those kind of things. And I mean, one of the simplest things is, honestly, and I think that we might have experienced or we experience it every now and then, is when you take an Uber and they maybe have a water bottle ready, a small one. Or it's a particularly hot month and they have it ready for you, and it's not something that you expect them to do. But if they have that, you feel so considered. And that's what I mean by small gestures. Sometimes it doesn't take much to make someone feel considered. And that, I have the feeling, has the biggest impact, because it's knowing what value it is that the person is seeking for or would love to receive in that moment, and not the value you think you should give. Because sometimes the value you think you should give is some massive gesture, and sometimes it's something as simple as having a little bottle of water in the right moment is so much valuable. Exactly. Yeah.
The little chocolate you find on your hotel bed, the glass of champagne you get when you come into a restaurant. I see what you're saying. Those are always very nice.
It's kind of, sorry, just one addition. It says the experience switches mode without fanfare. That's exactly. Sometimes you don't want the fanfare. Sometimes you want the small gesture that you're like, oh wow, so good that they understood exactly what I wanted in that moment. Like, they look at you and they know what's up, and they do that, and you're like, wow.
I mean, that was one feature from Uber that was like so revolutionary and so tiny that everybody made it appreciate it that much more, which is the option to have no conversations in the app. So like, I only want drivers that won't talk to me. I cannot say how big of an impact that was, but that's like one of those little conveniences that are so nice. Similar to like the skip intro button on Netflix, just those little things that are like, that makes this better than all the others. Damn.
Yeah,
and then they all start copying. All right. Anything to add, or shall we move on to point 4?
Maybe just one small thing. I think what is very difficult is loyalty that knows how you feel. It's a very big ask. And it's also very difficult to ask, because every person reacts differently to emotions. And I think there's a big difference between, again, having the small water in the Uber, or having the glass of champagne when you get into a restaurant, etc. But you don't really know. First of all, it's very difficult to understand how a person feels. Second of all, you don't really know how that person wants you to react towards it, because you have people that are sad, but they don't want to be treated as sad. There are people that are tired and they want to be treated as tired. There are people that, I don't know, are happy and don't want to have now maybe your reaction or your interpretation of their happiness. So I think that's super, super difficult. And I have to go back to the personal assistant, because most probably that one gets as close as possible to understanding you. And also just after a period of time, because they gather enough data to really understand you. They read your tone of voice when you ride with your friends, etc. They hear you maybe during calls. So there you can gather enough data to actually understand how that person feels, rather than a specific loyalty program understanding what exactly I need. Because I mean, if I'm going out and I pay, in the club at 4 a.m. with my credit card, in theory, that data point that I just paid at 4 a.m. and I took an Uber and I arrived home at 4:30, the data is all there to be able to say, hey, you know what? Most probably we'll have a hangover the next day. So I'll prepare you already, I don't know, a vitamin drink, or I get you a vitamin drink when you wake up. Or I tell already the personnel in the hotel that you shouldn't be disturbed, right? Because maybe you forgot to actually put up, please do not disturb. So all of those things are so difficult for a hotel to actually capture those data points so that they can actually react to what you need and how you feel. And from my perspective, it's only possible if you have actually someone listening and seeing all the data that you, let's say, generate to be able to provide you the perfect user experience.
You know where my head goes with that? It goes in a very sci-fi dystopian direction, but I immediately think of Neuralink and Whoop.
Yeah, I thought
and all
exactly the same
things where
thing.
you can, like, imagine
100%
connecting your AI assistant to like the chip in your head, you know? Is that
Yeah.
what it's gonna be? Boah.
And it would make life much easier.
It actually would.
Obviously, whoever creates that AI will have your life in their hands, but in theory, it makes life extremely simple.
I think I gave the example in one of the podcasts of the game I used to play when I was 12, 14 of
Yeah.
Mega Man Battle Network, of the personal assistants or personal internet navigators that you have on your phone. I was also thinking before when you were giving the example of that personal assistant that is the one personalizing your experiences. Maybe it goes both ways. Companies have their personal AI assistants. They talk to each other. They organize everything. And we humans, we just talk to our personal assistants who are they know us in and out. Like they're basically mirrors of us, just visualized. And they're sentient in a way. Like they know enough.
It feels like
that
eventually we won't have to make any decisions. They'll just ask us what we like and don't like, and they'll just like tailor our entire lives to make it that we enjoy ourselves as much as possible. That's the crazy, weird dystopian future that we end up having.
As long as it doesn't go in direction Wall-E.
Are you guys pro Neuralink though? Like when the chance comes along to get like a brain chip implant thing, would you be open to it? Just a random side question.
Depends what it does.
Not yet. No.
Okay. Fair enough. I think there's not enough information about it right now anyway to properly think about it.
Certain cases makes a huge amount of sense. Like when you look at people that are being helped that, you know, had certain difficulties, like from, I don't know, not being able to see or other let's say disabilities. There it helps a huge amount. It's of course a big difference if you say, okay, I want to put the chip inside my head because I want to have an easier life. That's a completely different decision.
True. Becomes less of a need and more of a want, and that's always an important distinction. Good. All right, this is going to be kind of interesting because it ties directly into what we were just talking about. We're actually one step ahead here. Loyalty that makes my life easier, from rewards to relief. When brands collapse steps, save time, or reduce decision fatigue, customers feel supported in ways traditional rewards can't match. Ease is one of the greatest drivers of loyalty. It subtracts friction instead of adding another thing to track. A pharmacy can turn routine into reassurance with a timely offer. Your refill is ready. It's cold and flu season. Want to bundle a care kit for pickup at 6 p.m. So literally, this is talking about what we were just mentioning. So, you know, they'll offer stuff to you and you just have to say yes or no, or I like this, or I don't like this, or whatever it is. I don't know. Do we want to linger on this, or should we move directly on to the next point? Because I do feel like we covered this one in the last conversation we just had.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And it's also very basic, to be fully honest. Like, it's nothing crazy. Your refill is, wow.
It's the same for loyalty, and it's the same for products. So, yeah. Good. Then we move right along to point 5. Loyalty that travels with me, from brand silos to portable identity. In traditional programs, benefits, preferences, and recognitions stay stuck behind brand silos. Next-gen loyalty makes recognition portable, so it travels with the customer, not the other way around. That portability shows up first through partnerships that feel like genuine welcome. Local partners see your platinum, enjoy a complimentary drink at these trending spots. I feel like this is already kind of the case if you're talking about especially like airlines and hotels. I'm guessing you can pretty easily come up with and find like partner locations depending on whichever hotel chain you're a part of. Maybe it's talking here about more of an international perspective with like other types of businesses, or maybe they're talking about more of like an amalgamation of different like systems into one place. It also shows up as continuity across touch points where your preferences don't need to be re-entered or re-earned. And as environments become more responsive, it becomes seamless across brands. Your room is set to your preferred temperature and lighting on arrival, with a small set of options tuned to how you travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is something, to be completely honest, this is something that goes back to what I was also just talking about now with that. Well, the same topic with the digital assistant, but it could be an option, but also just identity, digital identity. I have the feeling that that's one thing that there's a lot of companies working on that, and there has been progress made in that direction in some ways, but also as basic as credit card entry in shops. I've also seen apps or software, so to say, that offer standardized clothing information about you, so that when you go to a store, for example, as an extension on Chrome, you go to one fashion store, it already filters for clothing that fits your size. You go to another one, it does it again because it's all in one extension. This is the sort of thing that I already see with credit cards, basically, especially when you read the second part of the headline or the title, from brand silos to portable identity. Essentially what it means is wherever you go, whatever you visit online, it has the information about you that is relevant to customize the experience based on who you are. When I use, for example, Marriott Bonvoy, of course they have all the information about me. So whenever I go to a Marriott hotel, they can customize the experience to the best of their ability based on the membership data that they have about me. But once I go to another hotel, they don't have that about me unless I have a loyalty program, unless they have experience with me. I've been a visitor, ongoing visitor. But this is really about you going somewhere and that identity or that information being essentially not given or just sent or given, however it works, to that place, whether it's a shop or a hotel, and then customizing the experience. And one thing is credit cards already do that in a way. We all know that the Black Amex says things about you that don't have to be explained because you simply show the card, and therefore you receive an experience that is in line with you using that kind of card. So I have the feeling that there is already some semblance of that. It's just on a very basic level and on a very maybe human or in very simple terms on how you pay, because then they know, okay, this is a person who has a bit more purchasing power. Let's make the experience a bit better so that they can get a bit more out of it.
Yeah, it is true, and it is interesting.
An amazing thing, yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say this. I feel like this would be an amazing push forward if there would be some sort of digital identity that is standardized across everything.
I mean, it feels like every point that we've made so far, or every point that we've gone through so far, has kind of been answerable with this sort of AI loyalty assistant that we've been talking about for months now, essentially. Like pretty much every point has kind of tied back to that thing. So that's definitely interesting in that sense. Are we ready to jump over to point 6? We just got 2 points left for this article. This one's interesting. Loyalty that rewards my attention, from spend to signals. When brands reward attention meaningfully, loyalty becomes reciprocal. This is where loyalty begins to value participation, curiosity, and contribution, not just transactions. The interesting thing here, I feel like, is when we use our two most prime examples when it comes to loyalty programs, which is hotels and airlines, one of their biggest tasks is actually to make it so that you still think about them, but you make it actually, interestingly, that they don't like overtly spend too much crazy amounts of time booking, that it actually happens quickly and seamlessly. Like that's their whole thing, is removing friction. But I guess depending on the business, right, whether it's like an app or a restaurant or whatever it may be, different types of businesses require different amounts of attention, right? And the way that their retention strategies change over time, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really interesting here for me, because that was kind of where my mind went when I was thinking about this. So it can be immediate and personal. Thanks for the review. Here's something just for you. It can turn exploration into service rather than selling. You spent time in the new season, want us to pull together a basket that fits your style. Honestly, the examples are generally kind of the same across all of the points. But I do think that the attention argument is one that's very interesting, especially if we're talking about maybe a very competitive business, or a business that, I mean, yeah, I feel like for me, at least, the most interesting one was between the different types of businesses. I don't know how you guys feel about the attention conversation. Gabriele, maybe we can start with you on this one. When brands reward attention meaningfully, loyalty becomes reciprocal. Is this something that is important for all businesses? Is this something like, was I just talking out of my, before? Do you think it's more actually about capturing attention, or is it about the types of attention? What are your general thoughts when it comes to this particular point?
I mean, there's two sides at the end of the day: the attention that the customer gives the brand, and then the other way around, attention that the brand gives to the customer. I think that, I mean, yeah, obviously the brand shouldn't just reward you for paying them money. You as a customer give much more value by making referrals, word of mouth, maybe writing a review, posting on social media about them. So there are various things that say how you can give attention to a brand as a customer, and obviously all of that should be rewarded. When you generate value for the company, you should be rewarded for that. On the other side, when the brand gives you attention, or coming back to the whole topic of personalization, I mean, in the moment where we are today, I think it is easier. That's why, by the way, I think points are such a good way to give the flexibility to customer, is that as soon as you try to give your customer something specifically, so let's take the glass of champagne that you mentioned before when you're having the restaurant, it's a 50-50 chance that either you hit their need and their taste, or you don't hit it, right? And as soon as you give a person the power of choice, so hey, here are some points, now choose whatever you need right now. It could be a coffee, it could be a glass of champagne, it could be a water, or I don't know, a juice, whatever it is, right? The probability that you hit the right taste and what the customer needs is much higher. So if you actually want to give an attention that then also brings value, it is much better to have flexibility in that, because most of the times you won't have all the data that then actually tells you as a company what exactly how that attention should be formed. And that's why I believe makes for sure sense, again, to talk about attention from a customer perspective towards a brand, that they should be rewarded for it. On the other side, as a brand, again, it's always a 50-50 chance that what you're offering in that specific moment, you hit the right taste and the right need, or you completely don't hit it. I mean, imagine somebody finished, just comes out of therapy because they had too much alcohol in the last couple of years. You offer champagne, not the best idea, and that person most probably will feel like very very bad in that moment, right? But you don't have a data point as a restaurant, so how could you actually, you know, and it's not that you call the restaurant, make a reservation, and say, by the way, don't offer me any alcohol because I have a bit of an issue with alcohol. It's not the first thing that you will tell that restaurant. So it
True.
is super difficult to make the right assumptions, and it's difficult because you as a company again don't have all the data. So that's why again, as mentioned before, I believe more in my AI assistant having all the data and knowing actually that I just came out of, and I'm not talking about me, but just taking that example, that a person comes out of therapy because they had too much alcohol in the last couple of years. So my AI assistant actually will cater for that, and maybe actually when they do the reservation, tell the reservation, by the way, don't offer the guy any alcohol because he just had too much and he shouldn't drink anything. So bring him a juice instead of a glass of champagne. And I think, though, again, it will move much more in that direction and will be much easier because it centralizes all the gathering of information in one system, and then actually can, let's say, from there work on different customer experiences and then customer journeys that actually are completely personalized towards you.
Yeah.
But
It's funny. You made me think of
go ahead.
No, sorry. I was gonna do an anecdote. You can go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention the scenario Gabriela mentioned made me think of a comedy movie or something, where the recovering alcoholic goes to a restaurant and gets offered a free glass of champagne. Sorry, continue.
I was
Could also be, somebody that does dry January, for example, and says, okay, I'm not drinking anything in January. And the first thing that happens in the restaurant when you walk in, they actually offer you a glass of champagne. Yeah, then you have to tell them, hey, no, sorry, I'm doing dry January. I don't want to drink anything. Or you basically say, no, I don't want anything. And then they have to think about, okay, what can we offer you now, etc. I mean, obviously, the glass of champagne is a fairly simple example. But what I just want to say is that it's difficult for you as a company and as a brand know exactly what kind of moment in their life is that specific customer and what is the best possible personalization for them.
Until you have an AI loyalty assistant that is plugged into your brain and knows everything you're thinking.
But I don't entirely agree, to be honest, because I think this point here is completely something else. I think we're kind of missing the point of this. It says loyalty that rewards my attention. It's the shift from spend reward to signal reward. And the examples that they make is the brand, the business receiving the signal that the customer or the potential customer, the user, whoever it is, the person is looking at something specific, is putting attention into something specific. And instead of waiting to reward that user or that person for the spend of that product, let's say it's a product online, they reward them in the moment of the given attention. And the example that they make below is when, for example, it can turn exploration into service rather than selling. You spend time in the new season, like in the new season section of the store, of the fashion store, want us to pull together a basket that fits your style. I agree with you that it can be a 50-50 in the sense that they don't have all the data, but it's like saying you go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, and the waiter or the person that is outside sees that you're specifically looking at, for example, their fish specialties. And the person comes up to you and says, hey, by the way, like, I'm seeing that you are hung up, or you're looking at for a while the fish section. We have, by the way, the catch of the day is this. We'd love to give you a taste of it here. We have that. I don't know, just this was an example made on the moment, but it's not so much about the attention that they give, but it's specifically the attention that is given to certain parts or to certain products of the business, and giving the reward in that moment instead of waiting for them to spend money. I could even imagine is you're looking at, I don't know, shoes of a fashion store section, and they give you a 10% discount immediately because they're like, hey, I don't know, we saw that you've spent 10 minutes looking at shoes. here we give you that. So it's the example of the restaurant is not the example that they would make here, because it's not about you going to the restaurant, they just offer you a freebie just like that out of nowhere. It's if your example would be more appropriate if you would be looking at the alcohol before even entering, and they would say, hey, here's a glass of champagne because we saw that you're interested in our champagnes. And that's without even spending a dime, they already rewarded you for the attention you gave to their champagne selection.
But at the end of the day, that's, for me at least, it's part of the selling process. Has nothing to do with loyalty.
That's what loyalty programs are for, is to increase repeat revenue.
Purchase.
So it's about attracting customers, and in whatever phase of the funnel they can do it. I think that speaks to the beginning of the funnel before spend has even happened. Whereas loyalty programs in general are tend to be after spend.
It has nothing to do specifically with loyalty, in the sense that it doesn't matter if I'm a new customer or repeat customer. If I'm looking at the tab new season, right, then they can put together, or they can suggest me what would fit to me. Or doesn't matter if I'm a new customer or repeat customer in a restaurant. If I'm looking at the fish section and the waiter tells me, by the way, I have a few suggestions for you, you want to hear them, that's just trying to bring me over the line and being able to sell me something. So for me, it can be a nice way how to support that sales process.
It's rewarding you for giving attention to a specific section or a part.
For me, it's not rewarding.
I mean, if I'm sorry, but if I go to a store and I see that like I'm the store owner and I see that the person is looking at a certain product the whole time, let's say it's food, and you see, hey, we have noticed that you spend 10 minutes looking at the cheeses, or whatever it may be. I don't know. This is just an example. And I say, by the way, here is a sample of all of them, so you can actually taste them without them coming to you. I know this is a sales tactic.
I get it. What difference does it make if I'm new or if I'm existing or a new customer? If I'm in front of the cheese, they will anyways let me try the cheese.
Yeah, it's a bad example, just as bad as the person that comes out of therapy and you get a glass of champagne. It's the same level of example.
We can put this to bed for now. I think we're lingering maybe a bit too long on this. I think especially when it comes to the whole thing, I think these two examples are maybe used very, very specifically in this specific context. But I think when it comes to rewarding attention, you can actually zoom out a little bit more from that and think back, like beyond just like what the program is offering you, and moving forwards towards attention to actually the program itself. And whatever causes you to spend more time on that program or on the business's website or whatever it is that ends up getting rewarded. So like you don't need to refer friends and family to the thing, but if you do, you get rewarded. That's like the ultimate show of attention, actually. If you do anything like that goes like beyond the purview,
you would never refer someone before using the product or spending. I don't refer people to something I've never used or spent money on, right? It's what I'm just trying to say, just to make it short, is I think this point is not about attention in general. It's about rewarding the attention given before the spend has happened. As loyalty programs tend to reward after the spend or once you are part of the loyalty program. And I'm saying loyalty program just to encapsulate the point. It can be any kind of loyalty. Very often it's after the spend. It's once you have entered the room, once you have stepped inside of our ecosystem. Now we will reward you. And I think this point is the moment you look at us, we already try and reward you. However that may be. I'm not going to give an example because I think it's going to be scrutinized anyways. But it's just the moment you look into our direction, we will find a way to reward you before you spend money with us, before you spend time with us. And that, I think that's the point. That's why they say from spend to signal. You're giving me a signal that you're looking at me or you're looking at a part of my product line. I will reward you for that. Thank you for even considering us. I think that's what the point is. It's not attention in general. But yeah.
Really, if you have a last word before we move on to the next topic.
No,
this point for the rest of the podcast.
All good, man. All good.
I understand what Gianluca is saying. I think in super high-end luxury, you can maybe, I would say, yeah, there you can maybe talk about these things, and there is a real differentiator. So if I'm, I don't know, I'm going to a luxury brand like, and I'm
Rolex.
like, or Rolex, for example, and I'm like a normal customer, I go to the store, and I check the watches out there, or I check them out on the website, etc. And if I'm a really good customer, they actually come to my home and they bring the watches with them. I can try them in my basically surrounding. I can try them on. I just like have a literally different experience, on a completely different level. There, I agree. Yeah, they kind of reward. They give me a reward because I don't have to get out of my house. They come at my place. I can spend, I don't know, 2 3 hours with them, check out all the watches. They might have some watches there that other customers don't get, etc. So all of that, yeah, in a very high end level, makes sense. But I don't see the difference. Like I don't see it as a reward on a non-luxury segment. And if you're not a super high spending customer, I don't think that you really get that reward for your attention. It's then more sales tactics, and that's it. And even if the guy comes to my place to bring me the watches that I can check them out, they don't just come there for the sake of rewarding me, for my attention. They come there because they want to sell watches.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why the sentence here at the beginning, when brands reward attention meaningfully, keyword, loyalty becomes reciprocal.
Yeah. I mean, again,
Excellent.
you can really take the luxury business. I think is the best example. Like same as when Ferrari calls you and they tell you, "Hey, by the way, we have I don't know this special edition now. Only 3 customers will get it. I thought I'll call you." So they reward you basically with attention, and you are able to buy something. The same as Hermes with, I don't know, Birkin and Kelly bags. They call their customers, say, "Hey, you're lucky. I actually got it back. Do you want to get it?" So you basically get rewarded that you can buy something, but people actually appreciate it because they know it's super rare.
Exactly.
And they usually don't get it. But I think it works only in a super, super high-end level. And for really high spending customers. Everything below doesn't work.
All right. We have something of a consensus. Let's move along. But honestly, hey, these are the good conversations. Honestly, if this was a podcast where we all agreed on everything all the time, that would be also kind of boring. So let's just move directly on to point 7. And this is one that I think is relatively universal and one that is pretty important. And that's leaning into the community side, leaning into the emotion side, leading into the sense of belonging. From brand affinity to micro communities and shared rituals, experiences can transform loyalty from an individual reward system into a collective one, something that connects people to each other, not just to a brand. This is probably one of, I think, like just even from a marketing and optics standpoint, one of the most important ones, because every sort of, if you have enough money, you can market most things. But there is nothing more valuable than having people having a conversation about your brand or your company, uninstigated, basically. You know, if people actually talk about that, have you heard of these guys? Have you heard of this? Blah, blah, blah. Those are the kinds of conversations that end up doing incredibly well. And they mentioned that here. I mean, it can be collective progress, whatever. Belonging is one of the most enduring drivers of loyalty and one of the most underdeveloped. Modern loyalty experiences can create ways for members to connect around shared values, interests, and ambitions, making the relationship bigger than brand to customer. If a community hits a milestone together and unlocks a shared experience, not a badge, it can make shared values tangible. I think this has a lot to do with, and what's really interesting now is, I think from like a loyalty points standpoint and loyalty programs, it does feel very individualistic. I think this could start to become interesting and relevant down the line when people talk about, you know, the big like story from last year, which was the loneliness epidemic and things like that, when actually having a sense of community and people that you can talk to about stuff suddenly becomes increasingly valuable. Maybe that also ends up being something that's interesting. The question I think for me that's most important is when we're talking about then eventually having our personal AI agents and assistants that are helping us with everything. What happens to the sense of community then when we have like things that are doing that? Like, do the AI assistants get along and then they say, "Hey, I really like this assistant. Maybe you'll get along with the person they're assisting"? How does that work? Maybe I'm delving a little bit too much into it right now, but like,
I love
yeah,
that.
the sense of community around these things. Maybe also an interesting tie-in, these micro creator communities that a lot of these like beauty and fashion brands are picking up, where they're like incentivizing micro influencers, people that have like 1,000 followers or more for their content. That's also sort of incentivizing the conversation and stuff. So maybe we can also find a way to tie that into the whole conversation. But like when it comes to the grand scheme of things, zooming out, looking at how everything is moving, the community aspect and actually talking to each other about your favorite brands and whatnot, like what place does that have in the grand scheme of things? Is it one of the really important things? Is it something that's being very overlooked by a lot of companies? Is it something that's not going to be important down the line? I would love to hear if either of you have any interesting predictions when it comes to this aspect.
You want to go first, or should
No, sure, go ahead.
I mean, I honestly think it's either more again in the luxury premium segment, or with a super emotional topic, or with a super hyped topic. And I mean, in the let's say super high end, you have again the same topic, in the sense that let's just take, I don't know, with cars, for example, Ferrari. If you buy a Ferrari, first of all, you're like, there's not that many Ferraris driving around. So
Mm.
basically, when you see a fellow Ferrari owner, you kind of have that connection, right? You get invited to specific events where there are only Ferrari drivers. So you automatically can build a community. And we're not talking about millions and millions of customers, but it's a very curated, let's say, community where there actually can exist a certain, let's say, common culture, common values, and all of that, right? So yeah, that there it works. Again, in luxury, it works fairly well. And I think honestly, it's the main tool of marketing. You don't see Ferrari making ads in TVs. I mean, the founder of Lamborghini used to say that we're not doing any ads in TV because our customers are not sitting in front of the TV, which basically
Nice.
shows, okay, I have I have a very specific target group, and that's where I have to cater for it, right? And so that's one part. Then you have very emotional topics, and that could be, for example, I would personally see that more honestly when you think about sports, when you think about singers, as an example, when you go to a concert, etc. You have a lot of emotions involved. Think about a soccer team, right? Um, People have a huge emotion. Like if you sit at a bar and somebody asks you, hey, do you watch soccer? What team are you for? And then you say basically the same teams. There is already a direct connection between
High
them,
five.
right?
Yeah.
Right, the high five, and you start talking about the players, and you start talking about the last match and all that. And it's anyways a very emotional topic. If you look at a soccer match, it's not that people are sitting there and making a transaction; they're actually fully involved, and they feel every minute of that match. They have highs, lows, etc. So there it works too. And then you have, of course, hyped products. That could be in a certain moment, there is a hype about a certain product, you get it, I get it, and then when we see each other, that we both have that product, and we feel like a sense of connection and a sense of community. But hypes are mostly short lived, so they're not really a long term thing. Maybe I would say normal brands that don't fit into these categories, they have a small circle of super engaged customers. Sorry. That can form that community. That's like, if you look at Apple, that's the guys that are waiting in front of the store when the new iPhone comes out. That's with, I don't know, point system, the guys that have all kinds of Excel sheets, how they calculate what is the best redemption option, which card should you have, blah blah, and they have their where they talk about that stuff. But it's always a super small subset of all the customers that a company has, which is completely different. Again, high-end luxury, most of those customers that actually, let's say, can afford certain products, they're like, most of them get invited to those events, most of them feel that culture, etc. Sports, the same topic. Most of the sports fan don't go to a match and say, okay, yeah, let's check out the match because I need to check out the match. No, they're like really involved, and it's like not a percentage of all the fans. It's like all the fans.
Yeah. Maybe you could also say entertainment in general, right? I mean, it's very so industry specific in this case. Like, it's true, you wouldn't think about, supermarkets having like a dedicated community that talks about how passionate they are about the products of a certain supermarket over
Man, I
there.
wouldn't say so, because I know at least in Switzerland there's two main grocery stores. Between the people, sometimes they're like, "Oh, you're one of those guys that goes to that one."
Oh,
Or
really?
the other way around.
There's for sure a subset of customers that are really involved, right? But it's like it's not the majority. Like a grocery store, also here in Switzerland, what the example Gianluca made, 99% just go to the fucking store
Yeah,
and just buy
exactly. The
stuff.
convenient one.
And honestly, if I have one closer than the other wherever I am, I just take that one. It's not like, oh no,
Mhm.
no, I can't walk into that one. I'm a customer of the other one. No, like most probably they have both the same. Like they use both loyalty programs, and they use both of them. And you have a small subset that then swears on one specific store, and it's again the same as I would say 99% of Apple customers. It's a commodity. It's like having an iPhone is a commodity. It's not anymore, wow, I have the new iPhone. It's crazy. It's like a status symbol or stuff like that. No. I mean, you have that small subset of customers that when the new iPhone comes out, they wait in front of the store. But if you think about how many customers an Apple has and how many are standing in front of the store, it's such a small amount.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess from a subsection perspective, I guess it's also a strategy thing at the end, right? I mean, you do have some brands that do try to foster that sort of community-centric thing, but at the end of the day, you can always kind of filter that out. You can tell when something's inauthentic. So you've got like the Ferrari community, which is those dedicated drivers, and of course they'll all get along and everything. Same with an example I use all the time for brand loyalty, which is Harley Davidson, which is ironic because I don't care at all about motorcycles, but just knowing how that community operates and how close they are and how they do their get-togethers and their meetings, and they're so proud to be owners of that stuff, that wasn't fabricated. It was just a brilliant brand, and people really related to the brand, and et cetera, et cetera. It was not like a coordinated effort. We need to create a Harley Davidson community. It just ended up that way, and they support them.
Yeah, and I think it's also product related, because if you have a product that doesn't have emotion per se, I mean, look, driving a Harley, like just motorcycle in general, it's not, most people don't drive motorcycles because they say, hey, I'm fast through traffic and I don't know, I prefer two wheels than four, stuff like that. It is a very emotional topic, right? They want to drive a motorcycle because they want to feel the adrenaline. They like maybe a certain brand. So it's a completely different topic. Like a person that drives a Ferrari doesn't say, I just need to get from A to B. No, they like specifically that brand. They like fast cars. They like the design. They like the craftsmanship behind. They like a lot of different things that gets emotional. So it's not like, I mean, who spends, I don't know, 500K or $1 million on a car to get from A to B? Nobody. They buy it. It's a symbol. It gives them a good feeling when they sit in and when they put the engine on and so on. So the product itself needs to be high emotional, that actually you can build a community, because you don't build a community without emotions. You build a community with emotions, with culture, with feelings, etc. Otherwise, it's not a community. It's just a group of people. That's it.
Yeah, it's based on the
Sounds
same
good.
values, of course. Otherwise,
Yeah, but that's why you
nothing
need that subset, like giving emotions to a grocery store. How do you want to do that? Like,
because the rice
I mean,
there is amazing.
the shoe can be as nice as they want. The product can look as nice as they want, etc. It's so difficult to make it. I mean, you have, again, and that's what I'm saying. Like high end, it's much easier because you give a lot of value. Like you give a lot of smaller, bigger benefits to high spending customers. That then it makes you feel. Take airlines. If you're a senator and you can go into the senator lounge miles and more, you feel more like a community. Like we're senators, we're
Mm-hmm.
flying a lot, we're high spending, blah blah blah. We're a small circle. Same as Hans. Hans know each other because they're in the same lounge all the time. They always fly first class and all of that stuff. If you ask an economy customer if they feel with Swiss like a community, they will tell you no. Most of them will tell you no. It's not that they say, it's
It was the
amazing.
cheapest flight I could find. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, the meal in the economy was amazing this time. I have to say that it is like such an amazing. No, they won't give yeah, a lot of care about it. They just want to get from A to B. They want to find it cheap. They want to have a certain amount of comfort, and that's it. And they don't really care about left or right what they think about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're now a community and they can hold hands and be friends.
All right. Let's move directly onwards from this now. I think we've lingered on this topic for now over an hour. I mean, there were some really interesting points to talk about. We did have a very sort of colorful array of things to mention. It is interesting that, like, I mean, like we mentioned, a lot of them are kind of solved with whatever this infrastructure layer AI assistant thing is that we've sort of envisioned already. Kind of is the answer to pretty much every single one that's been out there. So that was definitely interesting, I think. I think, yeah, I mean, to conclude, this is just an interesting set of points, some more relevant than others, but all of them were really interesting to break down. And to be honest, like, especially towards the end there, I think the community-related question was interesting. The attention-related question was really interesting. So yeah, hopefully, I've been testing out clipping again. I want to make sure, and I see that if we can get some good quotes from you guys out of that one, because I think those were some good conversations we had there. But I think for today, we are now going to probably just stick to two then main articles, just because we're already a little bit running close with the time. We're just that good at talking about stuff, guys. But at the end of the day, one of the other really important ones that we wanted to talk about is, and sorry to be beating this subject in so hard, but everybody is always talking about AI. And we're just going to continue to do so because it is no less relevant. If anything, it becomes more and more relevant as the day goes on. Household name. Now, on the payments website, how brands are reinventing loyalty for the AI decision maker. AI decision maker is a very important term. This is really interesting because listen to this, just the first couple sentences from the article. The most consequential customer a brand will acquire in 2026 may never read a promotional email, react to a banner ad, or feel the emotional pull of a well-crafted rewards tier. It will be an AI agent, querying product catalogs, comparing subscription value, and executing purchases on behalf of a human who has already delegated the decision. So we've been talking about the delegation of the decision. And just to put a little bit of numbers behind this context and make it seem a little bit more real, there was an intelligence data from the payment site that says more than 6 in 10 US consumers use dedicated AI platforms, including ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini in the past year, with power users increasingly replacing legacy shopping and financial behaviors rather than supplementing them. A separate payments intelligence survey found that more than half of AI users would prefer to complete purchases inside a dedicated AI platform rather than being redirected to a merchant's website. A preference that removes branded environments from the equation entirely. That is a very interesting sort of status quo change for a lot of people. And this ties in a little bit into the conversation that we just had, where we talk about how relevant or irrelevant some of these different companies are and how much attention they actually need to dedicate to branding and marketing and things like that when you're talking about realizing that there's going to be AI agents that do all the shopping for everyone. So no matter how many flashy banners you have, it doesn't really matter. And B, like whether you're relevant enough, like in the equation, you know, whether you're an e-commerce store or a restaurant or a hotel, different people will spend different amounts of time looking at these ones, and the way that you brand and market is different depending on which one it is. I think that's really interesting. So they say here too, for loyalty strategists, the math is uncomfortable. Interesting choice of words. If discovery, comparison, and conversion increasingly occur inside AI interfaces, then point systems, email cadences, and static tier structures are invisible to the decision maker that matters. As we dive into this subject, I mean, a lot of then what we talk about, if we talk about this in general, like when we look at e-commerce stores and things like that, are they then eventually going to have to cater to being more appealing, strategizing to being more appealing towards AI agents rather than people? Are they still going to have to put in like a good amount into their branding and their brand and make it look like they're putting effort into it? Is this a topic that you guys have put a lot of thought into? Because it's a really, really, as soon as I read about this article, it was, I kind of, I don't know, I was not, it took me a bit to wrap my head around it, to be honest. Because when it talks about here, dedicated AI platform, rather than being redirected to a merchant's website, a preference that removes branded environments from the equation entirely. Like, what are some immediate sort of thoughts that come up? Maybe Gianluca, we can start with you on this one.
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to this, like, are there going to be some companies that say, okay, is this going to be like an important pivot, you know, for especially like for e-commerce brands or something like that? How do we make our advertising, our marketing, our branding as noticeable by agents as possible rather than people? It's a very interesting question. I don't know if you have some initial thoughts about this.
Yeah, I do definitely. Like, if we just take this snippet that you cut out, nothing else from the article and nothing else in general, it really, in fact, what you're saying, putting effort in branding, marketing, and all that is completely out the window, because this seems or reads to me like a cold-hearted, very mathematical AI agent that purely and strictly looks at the best value for their customer. And especially if they say that a study conducted says that 60% of US consumers, they would prefer to purchase directly inside the app, inside the chat, inside the AI platform, rather than going to the store. To me, it shows that they truly don't care, first of all, what brand they're buying from, at least in these queries, in these AI queries. It must also be queries where they're probably looking for the best value in general, because you're not going to ask GPT, or you could, which one's the coolest brand that I should buy? That, let's say it's shoes, just to make it simple. Which is the coolest brand I should buy shoes from now that is the hypest trend, so that I fit in the best, you know, in society? Okay, then of course it's going to be about branding. It's going to be about mission statements. It's going to be about culture and how the brands, how they portray themselves in correlation to trends, in correlation to popular culture, so that the AI gives something relevant for the consumer to then get it. And then they probably would want to go to the website to check it out further. But this to me sounds more like, I want to have the best running shoe that lasts the longest and is the cheapest. Go. And AI finds that information so specifically, regardless of what brand it is, regardless of how it's made, regardless of the marketing, the email cadences, all that stuff that they say, and just purely checks the data and sees, based on what you asked, what the best product is. And furthermore, in the second part of this snippet, it's where the article refers to loyalty programs. I could see the same thing happening, where loyalty programs may add all these amazing perks and benefits that are maybe intangible to, or that are hardly explained, let's say like that, hardly explained in numbers. And therefore, if someone would ask, hey, which hotel should I go to for my vacation where I have the most benefit on a loyalty program level, it doesn't matter which brand, which hotel it is. The AI is just going to give the best value for that loyalty program, or for the hotels that have the best loyalty program value. And of course, okay, because AI is advanced enough to understand context and perks that are not numbers, that are not tangible, in the sense of, like, I don't know, offers late checkout if you remember, or gives you upgraded rooms, you know, without saying what the upgrade actually is, whether it's $100 upgraded room or $200, where it can easily compare between programs. It has enough context to tell you which one is better. So yeah, I would say that this becomes so much less about who these brands are, how they represent themselves, but more about how much value they can give, and how much, in specifically to loyalty programs, how much value they can communicate as openly as possible, so that when AI agents go through all the resources online, they have all the information so that they can give it to their customers and to their prompters and push the program that gives the best value. That's at least the way I see it.
Totally. And with that, I also need to put in like a little bit of a disclaimer for the rest of it, because it is true that you mentioned like on the surface, if you just read this, it sounds like, okay, none of what we just talked about matters. We just the only thing that matters is numbers, et cetera, et cetera. But what brands are doing to adapt to this to these changes is actually then what we're going to discuss next. But Gabriele, maybe over to you. Is there anything just based off what we're reading here that specifically catches your eye? Or
I think it's 100% correct when we're talking about products that are kind of a commodity. So simple example, toilet paper. Yeah, it's not something that I need to go through a huge experience, and most cases I don't test it out in the store, and I see what kind of different toilet papers there are. There's also another huge difference from a price perspective. Like the luxury cashmere toilet paper and the normal toilet paper. So it's kind of a commodity. So there, an AI does 100% much better job than a person themselves, because basically you can check online all the different options that there are, price, quality, etc., reviews, whatever it is, and can then basically order that stuff. You as a human being don't even have to be in that decision-making process. You will just find it then basically in front of your door and get it in. On the other side, you have then again the other end is again high-end luxury product. So if I go and buy a Ferrari, this I don't want my loyalty agent to do the decision for me, but I actually want to go through the process. I want to go to the dealer. I want to go and test out maybe multiple cars. I want to have that experience of the guy showing me the garage, showing me, I don't know, the different Ferraris that they have there, maybe inviting me to an event where I meet some other people there. So that experience I want to do myself. So I won't delegate it to my loyalty agent. And then you have, I would say, a lot of products in between that are completely depending from the person. So I'll make an example. Let's take Gianluca and myself, actually, is a good example. Like, we both cook, but I would say I'm like a completely different, when it's about cooking, like I want to do my shopping myself. I need to check out the product. I need to talk with the butcher, with the cheese guy, with the veggie guy. I want to understand everything. Gianluca is much more rational in that. You just want to cook. You want to have the nutrients in there, and it's, let's say, less of an experience for you, right? When it's about fitness, Gianluca is much more experience oriented. I'm like, okay, if I can take a pill and lose the fat and be strong, then I would do it like that. So there are like completely different needs in people's life, right? And depending on those needs, you actually want to delegate that decision to your AI agent. And that could be, again, buying groceries, right? So that could be something which is like super clear. You always buy this. You always like to eat this. So the AI agent can easily do basically the shopping, right? Deliver it in front of your house, and then it's done. For me, it wouldn't work because I really love that experience, that specific experience of going to buy my groceries, think about what I want to eat, etc., and all of that stuff. So I think there it again then depends on the person itself. What needs do they have, and what do they want to experience? With clothes, for example, I don't. It's not that I'm a big shopper or I need to, go to different stores and try on and this and that. Mostly I use always the same shoes. I always use the same type of shoes. So I don't know if I can get those in a few different colors and the AI knows which color and can just buy it, and I'm fine with it. I don't even have to check it, right? So it really depends from person to person. What experiences do they want to do themselves, and what is more of a kind of a commodity where they don't have to go through the experience, and actually an AI agent can take it over. So I think the whole, like, first of all, brands need to understand that, and they need to understand, okay, is my product more of a commodity, meaning that I have to cater more towards an AI agent, or is it actually more something where I can build an experience around it, right? And I can actually access the human being behind it, and not having the AI agent basically taking that decision, right? And so I think that will be a big difference. And at the end of the day, it is still like, you as a human will give the AI at least certain guidelines. Like if you want to fly somewhere, or you want to book a flight for a trip, for example, for me, it wouldn't work that the AI just takes the decision, where do I get the cheapest flight, and that's it. No, because I have certain statuses, I have certain miles, I like certain airlines more than others.
It would know.
Huh?
It would know.
Yeah.
Most
You
likely.
just tell them that, like, hey, listen, if I fly to Dubai, for example, I either fly Swiss or Emirates. That's it. Like, if you find a comparable airline with same price, same quality, yeah, you can make a suggestion, right, so that I can check it out. But otherwise, don't suggest stuff that I anyways wouldn't fly with, because it doesn't bring me from a status perspective, it doesn't bring me anything from a points perspective or miles perspective, and I maybe don't even like the setup, the food, and all of that stuff. So obviously, you will have to give some guidelines to your. And it's the same if you would have like a human being as a personal assistant. Yeah, you have to give that human being certain guidelines. Like, I like this, I don't like this, so that person knows, or that system knows, okay, this makes more sense, I suggest it. This doesn't make sense, so I don't suggest it at all. And I'm always kind of in a standby mode, where I always check out new options and I compare them to the current preferences, because you never know what comes up new. Might be that there's a new airline, right, with super cool setup, everything is amazing, same price, etc. But since I'm always focused on Swiss and Emirates, I don't even look at it, right? So there, it makes sense to have kind of that exploration mode always open, that the AI knows, okay, these are the preferences, but I always compare the whole market and I see what is actually comparable to those preferences.
Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. And for the final sort of talking point for today, because we're slowly running out of time, I mean, diving a little bit more into the article, first of all, they talk about a couple of other ways now that AI is being used by some of these businesses, in particular sort of conglomerates. So for example, they talk about Eagle Eye, which works with major grocery, retail, and hospitality brands using real-time cloud-based loyalty and promotions engine designed to unify customer data. So they talk about that. And how big of an emphasis they have there on personalized promotions and digital coupons. They then also talk about Dine Brands, which is the parent company of Applebee's and IHOP, and how they are planning an AI-powered personalization engine that uses ordering history to recommend dishes and customize deals. And in general, a December study demonstrated that AI-driven churn prediction models applied to telecom subscriber data achieved accuracy rates of over 95%, with usage patterns and customer service interaction frequency emerging as the strongest leading indicators. So I think these are just 3 examples that they use as sort of, use cases to kind of demonstrate in which direction everything tends to be going. I also think if we want to dive in a little bit more, they talk about how it's sort of starting to root itself into the very infrastructure of how we do things. So in this case, for example, interoperable identity is emerging as its own competitive frontier. They talk about embedded finance and performance-tied benefits. This was one of my most interesting takeaways here.
Yeah.
Financial service firms are pursuing a parallel strategy, embedding loyalty benefits directly into payment infrastructure, so that an AI agent executing a transaction automatically captures and applies value without requiring a separate loyalty interaction. The model converts passive points accumulation into active transactional incentives that surface at the moment of payment. They highlight the example here of PayPal's integration with Perplexity, positioning PayPal as the embedded checkout layer inside an AI native shopping interface. So we're really talking about some pretty radical moves that are going to be happening. I'm guessing probably in the next few years. I mean, of course, the place of loyalty is something that can never go understated. I think the form in which it takes, it looks like it's going to be something that's going to be rapidly evolving over time. I mean, number one takeaway there, obviously, is for any company that's getting into the loyalty game or getting into that is number one, think about it a little bit more, put a little bit more effort into it. And most importantly, once you have a program that's out, keep up to date on all of the different trends and developments as they're happening. Because if you bring out a rewards program now, it feels like the rate at which everything is changing, it could become irrelevant 6 months from now already. And everybody will have moved to something that's maybe a little bit better for them. So definitely a very, very interesting thing here. I don't know if there's any other sort of topics that we want to get into, because we are sort of getting towards the end here already. But what do you think about this sort of example, for example, Gabriele, the PayPal integration with Perplexity? Probably the first of many that are going to be happening among all different kinds of payment providers and things like that. Is this the direction that you see everything going? So the embedded checkout layer inside an AI native shopping interface, you know, having the loyalty transaction happen automatically upon payment. Is that where the world is headed, or is this like a separate example and there's going to be space for everything? What are your, Penny, for your thoughts about the future in this scenario?
I mean, I think right now it's a lot of testing of different use cases, seeing what will customers accept more, accept less. And it's super early. So I think it's more about testing different use cases and, again, seeing what sticks. I think what never will change is that people want convenience. People want the easiest route to value. And every company, every provider, etc., just needs to cater for that. It's like fairly simple. You won't change people, and you won't. I mean, you can try it, but as soon as you have somebody that makes their life more convenient and more valuable, they will just change. So, I think that's the most important part, that you can really understand as a brand and as a provider, how can I make the life easier, the life more convenient of my end customers, and that will ultimately win. How it will be done, if it's PayPal with Perplexity and like all the loyalty benefits integrated, or if it's another let's say use case or tool, I think that's a completely different conversation, and we will see in time what actually will win.
Gianluca, what do you think in this case?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that maybe what I take away from this whole podcast, sort of in conclusion, is that AI will, what it does right now as well, is in the end it facilitates all the decision making and all the execution that is not relevant or not as impactful in general in your life. And the more impactful it is, the more human based it should be. And just as Gabriele was talking before, everything is a bit of a commodity, or toilet paper, stuff like that. Once you know your preference, I really don't care. I just want to have enough stock of it in my house, right? But the moment I talk about something talking about something like buying a Ferrari, yes, then I want to have that human element and an experience factor, and I want to be part of the decision as much as possible, because it is so close and emotionally to my heart. And that's, I think, something that we'll see going forward, if businesses identify exactly who their customers are and adapt their systems. And by systems, I don't mean just electronic, even just their processes as humans and employees, to really give value to these customers and hit the mark in that sense on what they want. And I think the example, by the way, that they were doing regarding the automatic payment with points is something that I was thinking about during the podcast as well. At some point, that's exactly one of those things you want AI to do for you. How many times have you purchased something from a grocery store, from somewhere else, without knowing or forgetting that you had a few points that maybe could have shaved off 10-15% of your payment. You go buy
true.
$100 worth of groceries, for example, and you had enough points for $10, and you just didn't remember. And that's exactly that element of, you don't think about these things, and you shouldn't be thinking about these things. They should be integrated in the experience. And AI has that bridging effect in a way, because it also thinks. So that's a bit the conclusion that I got from the podcast.
I mean, it's I think the core message is also, when it comes to knowing your customer, I mean, that was already a takeaway that we had a while back, but also just acknowledging that at the end of the day, people want simplicity. And if you're going shopping or if you're booking a flight or something, there's always that little lingering feeling in the back of your mind where it's like, could I have gotten a better deal elsewhere? Did I actually get my money's worth? Well, did I do everything perfectly? And now we're actually getting towards a stage where you can actually find a machine or even a virtual friend or whatever it is that can actually do all that for you. So we're really getting towards that time, and it looks like we are getting some of these companies that are, getting ahead, making sure that they're keeping up with everything and actually tailoring their entire business around appeasing not only you, but that little assistant that you're going to have with you that helps you make decisions. And that's really important. So yeah, that was definitely interesting. And what will also be interesting is the next episode that comes out, because we did have to cut a couple of things here for time, but a super interesting article from the A16Z Substack that we're going to be delving into, also agentically inclined, that is just as interesting. So that's going to be a great one. But for now, we're already a little bit over time, guys. Any final takeaways, any final thoughts? Gianluca, I think you already summarized the podcast very well. Gabriele, is there anything that you would like to say before we end the show for today?
No, stay safe wherever you are in this world. That's basically it. Hope you had fun, and we'll talk soon.
Turbulent times indeed. Yes, hopefully everybody is staying safe, everyone's staying healthy. And we will catch you in 2 weeks for the next episode. Stay tuned, and don't forget, as always, share, like, subscribe, follow us on all of the different social media platforms that you can imagine. The episodes come out on Spotify and YouTube, so always make sure to go there. We'll be announcing them on all of the possible platforms as well. Links are all in the description, including the personal links. I never really mentioned that, but of Gabriele, of Gianluca, and myself, our LinkedIn pages are all there. If you want to connect, be sure to let us know. Always happy to talk about anything that has anything to do with loyalty. So 100% let us know, and drop some comments if there's anything about the conversation that you found interesting, any sort of feedback that you would have for us, etc., etc. But for now, I think that's going to do it for today. We're going to enjoy the rest of our afternoons or evenings. And by enjoy, of course, I mean lock in and continue working. But either way, have a great time, everyone. And we will catch you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.
See you.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Ciao.